Well, my name is Art McConville. It's kind of not really a warrior name, I guess. But nobody seems to know where that name comes from. But my mother's side of the family is out of the Wallowa Lake area. Her head of our family was called Ollicott. That's First People. And his father was Chief Joseph. And my dad's side is some looking glasses family. And so we're considered non-treaty. There was five tribes, our nations or clans, whatever you want to call us, that went to war with the U.S., to try to escape into Canada. And so I come from kind of a radical family anyway, and that's cool, But I like being non-treaty, But the name they call me, I've always been known as Kuyama, and that means mountain lion. That's what I was named after, the mountain lion. And sometimes I have that personality, sometimes I just purr, But I grew up on the streets, all my life I grew up on the streets as far back as I can remember as a child. Went to Marines for 6 years in Vietnam. Went back to the streets again for 9 more years because that's all I knew. And I finally realized that, what am I doing, I'm a very smart person, but I don't know who I am, Nobody ever taught me nothing. And so I went on that great search for myself to find that human being that you're talking about, And it took me a long time because I was such an angry person and a violent person. And I lost all my values and humanity in the military and then growing up on the street. And so I literally had to turn to the women folk in the world and find them that I trusted to teach me how to be a human again. Because my partners couldn't teach me, as bad as I was, And so where do you learn how to love and have compassion and have understanding and have, all the qualities that women have that make them as powerful as they are, you have to go to them to get it, and so that's how I taught for years and years, and I finally found myself. And I started out by well, who are you, and they say, well, you're Nez Perce. And I said, I'm not Nez Perce, that's a French name, And so I realized that our people are called Nimipu, which means the real people, And I say, okay, if I'm part of the real people, then who am I again, And it would become a search for all those characteristics, all those values, and all those things like that, all the strength, of the generations of people that was before me. And so that was my initial walk. And then fortunately I ran into my elders, and they kind of ganged up on me and started teaching me. And for 16 years straight, they taught me. And I was very fortunate. I had 60, 70 elders that taught me, just everything. So I don't know anybody else that had the opportunity to be taught like that, But it was all about the spiritual value of the world, about who we were as a people, not just us as Native people, but people everywhere, Because initially we were all the same. We was all beautiful, wonderful, powerful people, But something corrupted a few people here and there. Now we see what happened because of that, But I kind of just been living everywhere. I spent a lot of time in Portland. I work with the Red Lodge over there. It's a transition program for women inmates. So I spent a lot of time in the prisons with them, and also with the men folk in Oregon. And because it reminds me of all my family, Because everybody in my family's kind of been in trouble here and there, and so I fit right in with all those kind of people. I feel more at home amongst the gangsters and the inmates, because we're all trying to find who we are and stay out of trouble. I know how to stay out of trouble now, so that's what I teach them. But in my journey, I come across a lot of activity, like the American Indian movement. I got involved with it a long time ago. Because I wanted to help out, I wanted to make a difference. And then recently, I've got involved with I got involved with the Megaload thing down on the Columbia River first with kind of ship all that big heavy equipment down the highways and up to do some fracking, you know. And they were just literally tearing up the land. And so there's quite a few people went to jail over that one, and we almost froze because it was their Christmas time, and it was like 2 below or something like that we was down there. And so my grandson was there. He was 9 years old, and he was all ready to go to jail. You know? So I have to do it for him and his little sister and all of their little children in my family. So it's not about myself anymore. It's about the children and about our families and our values and everything else, you know, everything that we stand for. And I was at home, and when I first heard about Standing Rock, you know, I felt like I had to be there without having any idea what was going on or where it was at. I didn't even have any idea. You know, I'd never been to North Dakota before. I sure never been to Standing Rock, you know, area. And so I just had the desire in my heart every day I wanted to be involved, and I didn't know how, didn't know where how I could get there or anything. You know, finally some hippie friends of mine called me up. And they said, we're going to head over there, you want to go? So I jumped on a bus that was painted all with flowers and everything else. I mean, big old school bus, and there was 17 of us on there, you know. And I tried to survive across that trip, you know, it was about 1,300 miles of trying to eat vegetarian food. And, you know, I mean, I got really skinny on that bus, you know. And I had to sneak off, grab a burger here and there, you know. But that was the first trip I made over there. And it was great because it's exactly where I wanted to be. I felt like I really, really belonged there. And the reason I felt that is because all the time in my search, I was looking for something that was close to tradition and spirituality as I could find, you know, how the old people were in those days. I mean, way back, not like today, but way back there. And I've always had a lot of respect for the Lakota and the Northern Cheyenne people and all the people in that area who were at that camp, because they've kept all those songs and all those prayers and all those ceremonies intact, and it's still very, very strong there, you know. And I've always wanted to be part of that because I have friends who are from there, and I always wanted to be a part of that movement because of their history, because of how they stand up for each other, you know, how strong they still are, you know, especially the women. The women are fantastic over there. I'm scared of all of them. But I got over there and had a good time. Right away we had like 50, 60 mile an hour winds, even though it wasn't cold. And my tent almost blew away the first night I was there. And then he said, well, winter coming, you're going to have to get ready for that. It's going to get nice and cold, about 80 below maybe, you know. And so I was there about a week, and I had to go back with my hippie friends, and went back to Portland with them. And then the next thing I know, somebody else would call me and said, we're taking supply to Standing Rock. We need another driver, you know. And you already been there, you know where it's at, you know, people, all right. They ended up driving over there again about a week later. And then I was there for about 4 or 5 days, and they called me again. They said, well, can you get back to Portland? We got another load to go over there again. So I was going back and forth. I went back and forth 5 times, you know. And the weather kept getting better and better, you know. And the last time I went over, well, the last 2 times we went over, we was in the snow all the way almost. But then we was there at the end of December, and that first blizzard came in. And we lived in a big old tent, army tent that had been donated. We stayed with the Cheyenne River people, and they shared part of a tent with us, and you know, a big family right from there, from Standing Rock. And some elders stayed with us, and they had a whole bunch of environmental people and a lot of Native people from Portland were living there. And we had it made. We had like 3 wood stoves in there. We had our own kitchen, and by the time the camps rolled up by then, and there was up to probably 13,000 people in camp, you know. And that was during the blizzard, you know. Because the traffic, you could see them coming across the hill to the front gate at night. There's nothing but a long people night, they're all night long coming in, you know. And so that first night of the blizzard, I had to go to the restroom about 4 o'clock in the morning. tried to get out of the tent and I couldn't get out because the snow was about this deep outside by the door. And I finally got out of there and then barely made it to the restroom, you know, just falling around out there. But then it was like that after that. So you got where you didn't hardly drink nothing after a while if you didn't want to go over there. But it got pretty cold, you know, but most people seemed like it didn't bother them because they really organized the camp where everybody had what they needed, you know, big coats and clothing to put underneath to keep warm, and boots and stuff and hats. So everybody was bundled up pretty good. So it was like, I don't know, like a secret camp would look like a bunch of people undercover or something. Because all you see is just little eyes looking out. You know, couldn't even tell who you're talking to. You know, they'd all be buried in their hats and scarves and coats, and then maybe sunglasses on top of that. So I probably made a lot of friends. I'll never recognize them again. But I finally barely got out of there, and a friend of mine from Oregon, she took me out of there barely. It took us 3 days of driving through the snow to get home. We drove south as fast as we could. We still couldn't get nowhere, and we tried out around the blizzard. We cleared into Nebraska, and we still was in it. So we just said, heck with it, and headed up on I-90, we headed home. But so I made it home finally, and then I started hearing about Florida.
Okay, pause right now. Can we move you over a little bit so that we can play the slideshow while you're talking about the Florida camp? Right here. You can all see the screen now still.